Tallahassee, welcome to the FSU weather. We've got gorgeous look outside. Well, it's very unusual because, we're kind of getting used to this new time change, but we're sitting at 67 degrees, so it's a little bit cooler out and very windy, up to 60 miles per hour wind. 67 degrees right now in Tallahassee, up to 64 in Quincy, so we're kind of cooling off. And you'll notice with our radar that it's pretty quiet. We had a little spotty shower pass through a little bit earlier, but overall, very, very quiet throughout the area. So what are we looking at tonight in way of FSU weather? Well, we're going to be talking, of course, about Tropical Storm Nicole. That's kind of the big headline, the big weather maker that's going to be bringing a lot of weather to the Tallahassee region over the next few days. We're also going to be looking at what the impacts of Nicole here in Tallahassee and along the Florida East Coast, and the cooler temperatures in store for all the southeast as Nicole passes through the area. All that and more tonight on FSU Weather.
That's right. Good evening, folks. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of FSU Weather. I'm student meteorologist Aaron Sray. Yeah, the big headline, this evening, of course, is actually Tropical Storm Nicole. That is right now bringing some squalls over to the east coast of Florida, and that will likely continue on as we go throughout the day tomorrow and then into tomorrow night as we come to our neck of the woods. And majority of the state is actually probably going to experience some tropical storm force conditions overall. So make sure you do prepare and make sure you bring some of those perhaps objects that might fly out in the wind indoors, and make sure you're just overall that you stay inside and just wear out the storm. But now I'll turn things back over to the wall with Ryan.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Like I showed just a couple seconds ago, gorgeous sunset outside Tallahassee. It's sitting at 67 degrees, wind at about 6 miles per hour, so it is a little gusty. On my walk over here, I did notice the wind is kind of picking up, and we'll start to notice as Nicole starts to move closer to shore its effects. Radar pretty quiet overall, and temperatures around the area. We're seeing kind of warmish, but it's also with the wind, it's feeling a little cooler. So 67 degrees right now in Tallahassee, 66 in Monticello. Madison, you're a warm spot at about 70 degrees, 67 down in St. Mark's, where we're going to be paying close attention for Nicole as it tries to make its kind of second landfall in the United States as it kind of moves through the peninsula. More on that in tropics. Today we hit 72 degrees, just a couple of degrees shy of our average, but well shy of our record of 87 degrees. Remember, a couple of days ago, we did break some heat records, and nowhere near our low temperature of 21 degrees. So right now, dew points, we are very comfortable throughout the area. You'll notice that when we look at kind of like the southeast dew point map in a little bit, a lot of the green moisture is kind of flowing towards where Nicole is. So Nicole has really helped us kind of be drier. I definitely need to put on some chapstick, and I wasn't really expecting it, but we're needing it. So taking a look at futurecast, you'll notice spotty showers will sort of start to push in tomorrow morning, and then here comes the big bursts of energy with Nicole. That kind of is going to bring the center of it around 6 o'clock. Now this is using the IBM model, so every model is going to be a little bit different. Some models have it kind of coming off of shore and then kind of making a second landfall near St. Mark's, maybe even Apalachicola. But you notice we're going to get a lot of rain over the next few days, especially overnight tonight into tomorrow. So tonight, 63 degrees, staying cloudy and 13 miles per hour. 66 degrees right now in Tallahassee, or 66 degrees tonight in Tallahassee. We'll notice rain throughout the area and a lot of rain just ahead of us. Thankfully, we're not going to be really near where Ian was. Ian was sitting just over Florida for such a long time. That was dumping feet and feet of rain, whereas Nicole is not going to drop as much rain. 71 degrees tomorrow. We are going to have that wind at about 22 miles per hour, just gusty winds throughout the day. So if you're going out and about, I would kind of recommend bringing an umbrella, bringing anything else. Just getting word now that Nicole is now a Category 1 hurricane with winds about 75 miles per hour. So tomorrow's forecast, staying at 71 degrees in Tallahassee, 71 in St. Mark's. But you notice those rain clouds just all over our map. So overall, nothing really too much to talk about. Once we get through tomorrow, though, we are going to start clearing up. As usual with tropical systems, we usually kind of start to see that clearing as the low pressure kind of brings all the bad weather with it. So Friday and then into the weekend, we're going to be clearing up. Our next rain chance is going to be on Tuesday. Aaron, how does the rest of Florida look as they brace for Nicole?
Honestly, kind of a tale of two stories here. We have the more tropical air mass, of course, around the spiral bands right there of Nicole coming into southeast and eastern coast of Florida here. We're actually sitting pretty high and dry here in Tallahassee for now, I should add, because overnight tonight we're going to start to see a bit more of a surge of moisture out ahead of Nicole as it starts to go over the Florida Peninsula. We're zooming in a little bit closer to the area. We're staying pretty dry on radar right now. Perhaps a few very isolated showers, perhaps near I-10, just fizzled out, and then another one down near Cross City, or I should say north of Dixie County there, near I-10 and I-75. But as for right now, enjoy it while it lasts, because we do have those windier conditions, especially coming in tomorrow. But right now, it is still pretty breezy, 10 miles per hour to the north. So overall, not too bad. Perhaps even a light jacket. I know I had to use a light jacket this morning coming into campus, and who would have thought a tropical system would be coming in tomorrow, right? But 66 degrees under clear skies right now over the res right now. And as for our radar right now, we're seeing those squall lines starting to begin to come in on shore here near Daytona, wrapping around down in Orlando there. So overall, we're going to see these squalls continue on for the next several hours or so as Nicole Center does begin to come near ashore. As for our friends in Gainesville right now, no, we are not being invaded by aliens. It's just the camera there. It's cloudy, 65 degrees with a little bit of wind as well out of the north at 13 miles per hour. And as for our radar here, we're seeing actually the center of Nicole there coming up actually quite a bit nicely there on our Miami radar. We can actually see a little bit of a better view on Bahamas radar, but we unfortunately don't get that data here. But overall, you can start to see that center of circulation there crossing. It actually made landfall near the Great Abaco Island there actually midday today. But of course now Hurricane Nicole will be continuing on that westerly march and probably make landfall somewhere north of Miami and probably closer to West Palm Beach or Jupiter area. So that's probably where they're likely to see the worst of the system, as it'll probably be a low-end hurricane by that point, or I should say it will probably still stay up as a Category 1 by that point. And then as it tracks over the state, it'll continue to bring those gusty winds across the central Florida. Currently, Miami, it is 72 degrees, rain and wind. Right now, you should be completing any type of preparations for the storm as it begins to make landfall overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. As for our rainfall forecast, we're actually going to be seeing quite a bit of rain especially across central and north Florida, as we actually start seeing the storm slowing down once it starts to curve back to the north. And what that will do is it'll kind of perhaps allow for some of these storms, what we call train, over the same areas and just bring rounds and rounds of rain over the next 24 to 48 hours or so. Current temperatures across Florida right now are sitting, for the most part, in the middle 60s across the Panhandle. It's not until you get down towards South Florida where we have that more tropical, that more sticky air mass where it's in the 70s right now, and that shows up pretty nicely here on our current dew points, where we're staying pretty dry here across the Panhandle, and then pretty moist as you get down towards the east coast of Florida. And for tomorrow's forecast, we're going to see a lot of thunder showers and rain across Tampa Point southward, and those will begin to work their way up towards our neck of the woods as we get into tomorrow evening. But now we'll turn things over to Ryan with a look at our southeast.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Actually, I'm going to be taking a further look at Hurricane Nicole. I was going to say tropical storm just a couple minutes ago got upgraded to a Category 1 hurricane. So here's a look at the Atlantic as a whole. You know, there's lots of convection out over Atlantic, but we're really going to be keeping our eye on now Category 1 Hurricane Nicole, just off the coast of Bahamas near Miami. And so Category 1 hurricane is sitting at about 75 miles per hour. You know, it's kind of make a landfall near southeast Florida, kind of. We're looking at Indian River County, maybe even on the north side, Brevard County, near the Space Coast, and then going to push its way through Central Florida throughout the overnight, about 1 a.m., and then tomorrow it's kind of going to make a curve. It's unknown if it's going to go back over the Gulf of Mexico, or at least the center of it will, but we do know that it's kind of going to make its way, or its run at us here. It's expected to be a tropical storm by that point. So with our spaghetti plots, we're seeing all of them are in pretty tight agreement that it's going to kind of run out through the middle of the state and then back up towards us here in Tallahassee. We've just got the one model that's kind of fighting back and kind of curving a little bit earlier than the rest of the models are. So with our visible satellite, you'll notice it's really trying to get itself together. You'll notice how much it's really trying to spin itself together. We've seen indications that it's trying to get an eye put together. So we're going to keep an eye on that. With the eye, as the eye starts to develop, or as the storm starts to strengthen, I should say, is when the eye is going to develop. So we've noticed Nicole is now, went from a subtropical storm now then to a tropical storm, now a hurricane. And the reason it's now a hurricane is because of the aircraft mission in there right now, sitting at 978 millibars. At least that's what they found just now. They also found winds conducive that will make it a Category 1 hurricane. So with the wind speeds coming ashore, you'll see a strong kind of motion of the storm work its way towards central Florida and then push its way through. The GFS has it going back over the Gulf of Mexico and then making another landfall with wind speeds near 40 to 60 miles per hour in spots, depending on which path it takes and how long it kind of spends over the Gulf of Mexico. You also notice with our rainfall forecast just how much rain is going to be impacting areas that have seen so much rain already from Hurricane Ian that are still dealing with flooding along the St. Johns River, Lake Okeechobee. So many areas are high of water. I was in Central Florida a couple weeks ago and just saw how much water is still in the area with Tropical Storm Ian that dumped or Hurricane Ian that dumped feet of rains. Now we see Hurricane Nicole. The radar very active at this hour. It's all along Central Florida, I-4 corridor down towards I-75. Showers and storms sprinkling up, and then this big burst of rain and wind throughout much of the east coast of Florida and the Bahamas. So our current watches and warnings, we've got tropical storm watches for most of Florida, just a couple, or tropical storm warnings, I should say, for most of Florida. And then hurricane warnings we're seeing, looks like Brevard County on south. That's where we're going to see our hurricane warnings come in. You notice with the water vapor, just how much energy there is there. So Nicole is expected to make landfall late tonight, and then we're looking at storm surge, beach erosion, winds, and flooding as we go through the overnight hours tonight. Aaron, how's the rest of the southeast looking?
It's looking better right now, at least compared to, of course, what we're going to see with our friends here in South Florida and, of course, here as well in the next day or so. But I will add to that the message as well is if you see a large puddle of water and you don't know how deep it is, turn around and don't drown. That is the biggest key here, and we want to stress that here on FSU Weather. But tonight we're seeing, overall the most part, we're seeing the clouds out to the east, I should say southeast, and then mostly clear skies over towards our friends further north in Virginia, and then down in Bowling Green, Kentucky, where Bowling Green, Kentucky is actually a bit warmer than we are here. But of course, they're more out in the sun there. They have less moisture to deal with compared to what we have to deal with today. Our current temperatures across this much of the southeast, we have those 60s and 70s across most of the eastern portions of the region. It's not until you get to about Shreveport and Little Rock where they still have some sun out and where it's still in the 80s there, where they haven't had much in that way of cloud cover. It's also more humid and moist there where we have dew points staying in the 60s far over here. But actually, our drier air today is actually partly responsible from Nicole, as what it's actually doing is it's actually bringing that northerly winds around the counterclockwise swirl around the low pressure center. And what that's doing is it's allowing our conditions to be dry and cool for a day. Tomorrow we're going to change that and we're going to go to more of tropical air mass as we go towards the next 24 to 48 hours. Temperatures anomalies for today, we have actually almost 30 degrees above average across the nation's heartland there for Kansas, Oklahoma. Very warm today, very warm conditions out ahead of the next cold front that will perhaps bring us to cooler weather after Nicole does ultimately leave. But elsewhere, we're staying pretty mild just because of those cloud cover from Nicole covering clouds, or covering, I should say, the sun. Our radar elsewhere besides Florida, we're actually staying relatively dry on radar, and that's because we have that dry air in place, at least across places like Atlanta, Tallahassee, over towards Birmingham, and over towards Mississippi, and even out towards Arkansas and Louisiana, it's still staying pretty dry, but they're seeing a little more in the way of more sun. Future radar, we have Nicole making landfall along the Florida East Coast. It crosses over to about near the Nature Coast there. Perhaps it moves offshore. That's what many models are starting to kind of come more into agreement with. And then coming over our area by late tomorrow night, that's when we expect the worst to come through the Big Bend. But as for the rest of Florida, we expect this storm to eventually gradually weaken as it does cross over the peninsula of Florida. So probably be more of a tropical storm there. And of course that we have that excessive rainfall outlook for much of the area. But tomorrow we will see relatively cooler conditions compared to today, at least, for across much of the southeast. But now we'll turn things over to the wall with Ryan on more about Nicole.
Thank you so much, Sharon. I feel like all show today we've been talking about Nicole, and we're really going to take a deep dive into why Nicole has been such an unusual storm, because normally this time of year we're talking Mariah Carey. We're not really talking about Nicole or a tropical system, but Nicole is kind of an exception here. So let's take a look at really what has made Nicole special. So already we're seeing tropical storm winds starting to batter the Florida East Coast, and I should say Hurricane Nicole just got upgraded. 3 to 5 feet of storm surge along the east coast of Florida. I know I've already heard of, I believe, a structure collapse in Daytona Beach shores. So I heard that a little bit earlier. We're seeing a lot of storm surge, and the tropical storm force winds are going to make it here in the Big Bend region about Thursday morning, and we'll be keeping our eye out for strong winds. You'll notice with this map just how large the wind swath is. This has kind of been an unusual storm that started off as a subtropical low. So with that, the reason it was subtropical is it was just a lot bigger than a normal condensed tropical storm is. And with that, we have such a large wind field that's bringing tropical storm winds throughout most of Florida, if not all of Florida, over the next couple days or so. The wind field is just so big that we're seeing tropical storm force winds into the Carolinas. That's how big the influence of Nicole has been over the area. So taking a look at the earliest arrival of storm winds, I think Thursday morning is when we're going to start seeing winds push its way into Tallahassee. So definitely finish up your preparations tonight. Hopefully those of you along Central Florida, East Central Florida have already started to, or already finished up your preparations. And then for us here in the Big Bend region, that's where we're going to start seeing the next wave is Thursday morning. We'll notice another kind of big thing with tropical systems is storm surge. And we're going to see a lot of storm surge with Nicole, bringing 5 to 6 feet of storm surge to the east coast of Florida. And you'll add the 5 to 6 feet of storm surge on top of the, whether it be high tide, and then the already above average wave heights. So we're seeing lots of storm surge across all of Florida. Nicole is definitely going to be something that we're going to remember well here in Central Florida, being an October storm. Now over to Aaron, who's going to show you the rest of the country.
That's right. As we go, kind of zoom out here on the national, we have the cooler weather here out along the East Coast, and then also out in the Rockies here. And in between, we have that ridge that's bringing in a little bit of some warmer weather, especially down towards Texas, where San Antonio is sitting down at 81 degrees. So pretty warm for this mid-November day. But then again, we're also talking about a hurricane too. So quite a weird trend here across the country. Overall, we see this cold front coming into the northern portions of the plains here. So 27 in Bismarck and 11 degrees in Billings. And it's honestly not terribly uncommon this time of year, as they are pretty far north, and we do tend to see these cold fronts running off at least out from the Rockies. Our current dew points do also follow that trend with that cold front here, with it bringing drier conditions across Nebraska, South Dakota, and North Dakota, and as well to our friends out in Billings as well. And as for, at least in part of the southern plains, in the central plains, we have that warmer, moist air out ahead of that cold front, as we have those southerly winds in front of the cold front. And then as for our area, we have that drier air in place briefly until Nicole comes up, and it's actually partially due to Nicole because of that counterclockwise circulation. And actually shows up nicely here on our wind speed plot, where we have those northeasterly winds around Nicole and that tight pressure gradient above from this high pressure over New England and Nicole down to the south. And what that's actually doing is what wind is actually just a difference between different pressures. And the steeper that pressure gradient is, the stronger the wind tends to be, especially out in the water. So it is even out ahead of Nicole. Even though Nicole is down towards South Florida, we are experiencing those gustier winds from time to time here across the Big Bend. And again, we have that southerly wind out ahead of the cold front coming in from the north, and then out at least along the west coast. We also do have that ridge starting to build in out there. That's what's going to provide a little bit of a warming trend out there. Our surface analysis, we have those dual cold fronts here with a low pressure out in the Wyoming and cold front being dragged down to Kansas, and then also over towards the Four Corners. And as for our area over the East Coast, we have high pressures. It's dominantly in place across Nashville, And that's what's actually pushing Nicole our direction. The reason why is very atypical for this time of year is because normally we have these tropical systems, they normally jet out into the open Atlantic, but because we have high pressure really strong blocking Nicole, that's why it's basically forcing it off towards the west, towards our area. So very unusual times in mid-November. Our water vapor loop, we have that really those colder cloud tops showing up nicely there on our water vapor and infrared here, and that's what's allowing for that for those colder cloud tops and allowing for the storm to actually form and actually, I should say, consolidate its strength. We also have that trough here digging in to the west coast and allowing some of that upper level moisture coming in from the northern plains. As for the Pacific Northwest, we are actually staying pretty dry after a relatively moist last few days, and snow actually out in Idaho and the rest of the Rocky Mountains. Tomorrow's forecast, we have temperatures for the most part remaining pretty mild across much of the East Coast. It's not until you get down to Texas where it's really warm, but honestly, I'm looking forward to that colder weather later this week. How about you, Ryan?
I'm looking forward to that colder weather as well. I think we kind of had our taste of it a little bit earlier in the, October, where we were sitting down in the 30s. I kind of missed that. FSU Sportsplex, lights are on. I'm sure it's pretty quiet just because we've got the storm moving in. Take a look down in Panama City at that purple-pink sky. I'm not sure if that's our camera or if that's actually how it looks right now in Panama City. That's kind of interesting just to see what the sky looks like before Hurricane Nicole makes landfall. St. George Island, looking off the coast again, kind of getting too dark for us to see, but just behind me you'll see it's getting pretty dark pretty quickly with daylight savings time in effect. We'll see 67 degrees across the area, 6-mile-per-hour winds, so we saw the gusty clouds. Airport delays right now, if you're flying out of Tallahassee, you're looking pretty good. That's going to change. I know I have a flight Friday that I'm thinking of canceling. I don't think I'm going to be able to get out Friday, and if I do, I don't know how. But cloudy, no delays right now, but that's set to change. I know Orlando International Airport closed at 4 o'clock today. That's supposed to stay closed until Friday afternoon. And the rest of the area, we're looking delay-free. Atlanta, Dallas, Fort Worth, Los Angeles. But like I said, Orlando is closed right now, so all outbound flights and inbound flights are canceled. But you know what? You don't need a flight to go walk your dog, do you? 66 degrees, right, 7 a.m. Yeah, but I would do it pretty early because that's kind of when you're going to dodge most of the thunderstorms. I don't know, maybe your dog does like rain. Mine doesn't. I know mine would run under a pillow or something if it heard thunder. Mine, like, it'd be like, you want me to go out in this? It's raining, don't you see? You'll have to do this, right? Why do I have to do this? If you're going stargazing night, probably not that great because there are going to be a lot of clouds around. 85% waxing gibbous, and sunrise at 5:44. So definitely with the daylight savings, it's gotten way darker. I don't know if I like it. I don't think I do. But I don't mind waking up for my 8 a.m. that now is canceled. But 63 degrees for Thursday Night Football over in Charlotte, North Carolina. Saturday we take on Syracuse, 43 degrees. So maybe bring a little hoodie with you, something to keep you warm. 75 degrees for soccer on November 11th in Tallahassee. And then the rest of it, once we get through Nicole, I think our forecast is going to look a lot better, Aaron.
That looks really nice there, Ryan. And currently right now across Doak, it's actually dark because of daylight savings time, or I should say we're now getting out of daylight savings time. We're now in standard time here. Almost messed that one up. Currently 67 degrees under partly cloudy skies there. Actually not terrible night to go outside and perhaps go out for a walk, go out for a nice bike ride. Really nice outside. And over our radar right now, we are staying pretty dry. This will change as we check back in about 24 hours or so. It'll definitely be a different story. But right now across Tallahassee, it is staying pretty dry across the area as we have that drier air in place momentarily before Nicole does get here and does settle down with that rain. And our current temperatures across much of the Panhandle, we're staying in the 60s, 66 in Crawfordville, 67 in Thomasville, and then, Tallahassee, and 64 in Thomasville this evening. Our temperature almanac, we stayed below, we actually stayed a little bit below average because of that cloud cover actually preventing some of that sun to come in and help energize the atmosphere and actually heat it up. And our low temperature also actually really reflects that too, with it actually acting like a blanket, preventing that cooler air to actually build on the surface because what it does is it's a greenhouse effect. I see. Our current dew points, very dry still. This will change. Make sure tonight, make sure you do wear that sweater because it will be, or the temperature will feel closer to the actual, or the feels like temperature will feel closer to the actual temperature here tonight. But currently, it's still staying in the 50s and 40s there, and we'll eventually say goodbye to those here in the next 24 hours, and we'll say hello back in the next 3 days or so. Future radar. This is the big story. This is Nicole here. At least this model, our in-house model, does show it perhaps making landfall near St. Mark's on Thursday afternoon. So about 24 hours from now, we might be talking about a landfalling tropical system by that point. It'll probably be a weak tropical storm by this point, but look at all that rain. Those oranges, those reds, bringing a lot of rain here across much of the metro area and points northward. And you do remember, too, that the strongest winds tend to be, at least for Nicole, have been on the northern side of the storm. So we will have to watch out, and I think most of the day tomorrow is going to be a pretty terrible day, at least to do much outside, especially as the rain starts to build in. But tonight, if you just enjoy one more night before Nicole, it is 63 degrees under a cloudy sky, so almost 10 degrees difference from what we saw last night with the clear skies and lack of clouds. And those winds will begin to pick out from the north-northeast. And as for zooming out across much of the rest of the area for tonight's forecast, we're staying mostly getting into perhaps the low to mid-60s upward or near southwest Georgia, and then a little bit warmer down towards the coast. But as for the week ahead, after we deal with Nicole here on Thursday, we're going to see that drier air and that cooler air come back in the forecast there across much of Big Bend. I'm looking forward to that. And how about you, Ryan?
I'm definitely looking forward to that cooler weather. That sounds great to just kind of have Nicole kind of force our cooler temperatures in. I remember with Ian, that also helped kind of activate the colder temperatures, bring that front down. So definitely the colder temperatures is something to look forward to. Hurricane Nicole set to make landfall tonight. We'll have coverage throughout the day, both on social media and on FSU weather. We'll bring you most up-to-date information that we can from across all of Central Florida and into the Panhandle. We'll be all over the place trying to keep you safe. That's our number one goal here at FSU Weather, is to keep you safe and keep you informed about what's going on in weather. So follow us on Twitter for the most up-to-date information, FSU Weather on there. Also on Facebook, www.facebook.com/FSU Weather. Also, if you're watching us here on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. It's just 6-1 button. It's free, not that big of a hassle, and you can get notifications anytime we're live. Also on Instagram, FSU Weather. We've got all the latest information on social media. It's kind of our easiest way to communicate information is on social media. And definitely, so as Nicole makes landfall tonight, it's going to be loud. There's going to be banging. If you've never experienced a tropical storm before, there's going to be banging. There's going to be noises. It's going to be okay. We're going to get through it. We'll be safe. Just be smart, okay? Don't go out into ankle-deep water. And just, if you were told to evacuate, please evacuate. Over to Aaron for one last look at our 7-day forecast.
That's right. We'll set you home here tonight with one last look at our 7-day. After Nicole, we will get through this, as Ryan mentioned out, we will get through this. The sun will eventually come out again, and we will see those conditions really nicely there. Sunday, 65 degrees, and honestly, for the rest of the week, we're staying in the 60s, even near 70s, so really pleasant and seasonal-like days coming up ahead across much of the Big Bend. But we're looking forward to it, but make sure you guys do have a good night and stay safe out there.